Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Captain Mark Brouker. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting and Life Unscripted. We're so grateful to have you here this wonderful Saturday afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me, Christina.
You betcha. We're grateful. We have talked about the topic of leadership, but you're going to bring a whole new spin to it. You have a new book out called Lessons from the Navy: How to Earn Trust, Lead Teams, and Achieve Organizational Excellence. And this is very important. One thing I found very early on when I was brought into management is one of the things to learn first was how to earn that trust from the people you're going to work with. Share your experiences and what caused you to write this book.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what caused me to write the book. A couple of things is one, I really had a revelation. I'm a pharmacist. I came in the Navy as a pharmacist. Over 20 years, I made a certain rank and I ended up being commanding officer of a pretty big hospital. And going into that job, I realized that I really, I wasn't incompetent. I don't want to say that, but there were so many other people who had more experience than I did for that job. And what I decided to do, and I had studied leadership my whole life, I said, you know what I've got to do is I got to earn the people's trust. And that's what I worked really hard at for those 3 years. And in spite of the fact there were many other people more qualified than I was for that job, like I said, we were very successful. And it really boiled down to them trusting me and really, in the end of the day, telling me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. We made better decisions that way. It's really kind of common sense, but I for some reason, and why I wrote the book is, Christina, is it's just this information is really not out there that much. And what I think what I try to do in my book, and reviews have come in and said, Mark, what I love about your book, it's practical. It gives you tools that you can actually employ to build that trust. And that's what I wanted to do. All my experience is practical experience. I was in leadership for many, many years.
Yeah.
So I want to give something that people give some tools to actually show that you can care for your people and build that trust.
Yeah, I really loved it. I could have used your book back when I started in management, because my very first out of the gate, thing to do was top management gave me a big project for my team and I to handle. And I just knew Jack Green. I gave them this project to do and we all failed. And I took all the brunt of it. I sucked. I must have screwed up really bad. But the bottom line is no one wanted to come back for me because they didn't know me. They didn't trust me. And it was at that time I didn't realize that, I really have to get them to know I'm on their team. I'm with them. I've got their back and that they can trust me. And so I found very early on that was a really key element.
Yeah, that's it. And it's simple. I mean, the concept is simple. Let's put it that way. The execution piece is hard because life gets in the way. You go into the work sometimes not in the best of moods. And I just think what I've tried to do, Christina, is to help people understand that your job as a leader is really the primary job is to create a culture. That's your primary job. You have other things, but the higher up you get, the more important that is. But even as a entry-level manager, maybe 5 people on your team, your primary job is to create a culture, and a culture of trust. You have a culture of fear. If you look at every disaster, almost any disaster in any industry, there's an element of fear. The Challenger disaster, there's a great Netflix out, the last flight of Challenger in 86. If you look back on that, there is an element of, it's a great element of fear. So it's just so important, but it's just not talked about enough. So that's what I try to do in the book.
Yeah. No, I like that you mentioned that element of fear, because I've had so many leaders or managers who led from that center of fear, thinking, well, if I get them scared of me enough with bad consequences, they're going to work hard. And it only works to some extent. Like, you can get them on the hook for a little bit, but then things are going to start falling apart. And I found that there'll be companies that have been out that were fabulous, and then they got new leadership that would lead from fear. Yeah. And it ultimately always led in horrible, disastrous results.
Yeah. And you think about it. I know there's people listening to this, they're shaking their heads going, oh yeah, maybe they're in a job right now where it's a lot of fear. And think about it. If you're working under a culture of fear, you're not trying to do better. You're trying to avoid making a mistake. That's it.
Exactly. And you make more.
Exactly. It's more creative. And people don't work well when they're, distracted, and fear is a distraction. I was talking to a guy the other day. I do a lot of coaching, and he did a great job with a crisis came up. I said, the primary thing you didn't create any more distractions. Sometimes leaders create more distractions, and their leader's job is to avoid those distractions. So anyway, it's again, simple concept, but when your kid's not doing well in school, or something happens, and you're going to work in not such a good mood, just leaders need to be aware that you're always on point. You're always, everything you do, every iteration either creates more fear or less fear. It's quite it really was quite a journey, and I just want to put this stuff in a book to help people along that journey.
Now, when you've worked with businesses and in your own, in the civilian world, what do you find that most people are missing outside of the military that maybe you got more so? Yeah, you mentioned achieve organizational excellence. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's so I tell you, I work for a civilian organization now, and they say, well, Mark, we know that the military is command and control, and that's how you guys lead. And the truth is, I just tell you, Christina, and the opposite of command and control is care and compassion. That's what I talk about. The effective leaders lead with care and compassion. And I'll just tell you again, my experience. I've done a lot of work with the corporate world the last 10 years. I saw, frankly, more care and compassion in the military that I've seen in the corporate world. It's kind of interesting. You'd think that's not the case, but and again, we had some command and control people in the military, don't get me wrong, but I've seen more, frankly, better leadership in the military that I've seen in the corporate world. I'll just tell you. And I don't know if it's because, the corporate world, you got the quarterly profit margins, you got a lot of stuff going on, and you gotta answer to the money and to the numbers, but it's just interesting. But the key is it's care and compassion. That's how you lead. That's how you lead teams, and that's how you create effective teams.
Well, it's interesting because you think as you're warriors and you're out there being warriors, that care and compassion would be the last thing on your register. But it's interesting. And what I found being in corporate America is the idea of get it done no matter what, by any means possible, is not the best way to go about it. When the people that you work with find that you have care and compassion for them, they're willing to go the long haul. I had one boss that was such a caring, compassionate guy that he had us staying till midnight, 1 a.m, busting our butt. We would do anything to make the quarter happen because this guy was such a great leader. And that's what you have to look at. If that's not happening for your organization, then that element is missing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So your story is a good one. And so here's now there are times, like your boss that you just talked about, there are times when you need to lead by command and control. You've got to take charge. You've got to direct. I mean, it's just the way it is. In the military, it's called warfare. You've got to take command. And same thing in the civilian world. During the COVID thing, leaders had to take charge and make tough decisions. But the point is, between those crises, and there shouldn't be in a crisis mode all the time. If you're in crisis mode, there's something wrong with your company. But most of the time you're not in crisis mode. But during that time of between the crises, you are building trust. So when the inevitable crisis comes, your people will turn to you and they'll listen to you, and you can make decisions well, and you can make good decisions. Like I said, the culture of fear, where the problem is people tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear.
They're scared to get.
They're just afraid. So it's it's really quite profound. It's just fun. It's fun. And in the corporate world, like I said, the crisis is coming whether you like it or not. It could be around the corner. No one saw this COVID thing coming. And those companies that had created a culture of trust before COVID have weathered that storm much better than companies that did not. It just, there's so many stories of that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's say it's me 20, 30 years back. I'm about to start a leadership position. I'm super green. What is your first line of advice for them?
Oh, that's a great question, man. That's a great question. And I do a lot of coaching for brand new leaders, mostly in the Navy, but I do some work in the corporate world. So here's what I would tell you. If you work for me, Christina, after you get through the whole, you've gone through that gauntlet of getting hired, and you finally got your offer letter, and you come in that first day, and you're having your first one-on-one with me as your boss. And I turn to you and I say, Christina, I don't want to talk about work. I want to get to know you as a person. I got to know you a little bit during the interview process, but I just want to know you a little bit. What do you love to do? What do you love to do? I don't tell me about work. What do you just love to do? And just have like a 20-minute conversation, and think of how profound that is. And when you really listen, this is where listening is so important, and you share a little bit about yourself, 5 minutes about yourself, that is really a profound experience, because you're realizing the boss, the boss is starting, maybe he cares for you as a person. And when the people say that, like that boss you talked about, when you said you worked till midnight, 1 o'clock, you knew in your heart, this guy, or I guess it's a guy or a gal, I think you said guy.
Yeah.
The guy, if you feel like the boss cares for you, you're going to work really hard for him. That's the bottom line. So one way to do it is to get to know them. It's just, it is so simple. It takes the skill set of listening and a little bit of time.
Yeah, I love that. And that's true of this individual boss too. And what he did as a team to pull us together is a couple times a year we do competitions. We go out and do some bowling together, whatever, some fun, jolly competition, whoever wins gets a little medal, whatever. But it was just to get us together, working together, but having fun together. And we just loved coming together as a group. We just really began to care about each other as a group, the whole team. And I think that's something that all organizations can learn from when it becomes from this guy. Some of the other departments were like, oh, they're always going bowling or out for dinner. I'm like, yeah, but we worked the best in the organization because we've got that strong team that we love being together.
Yeah. It's not a hard equation, but again, what I tell, the other thing I talk about is being optimistic and being upbeat, just having a good attitude. I call it optimism, but you get the idea. And I tell people that you be optimistic, you fake it, or you don't show up. And people say, what do you mean you don't show up? I say, listen, this is a hard job. To do it right, it takes a lot of energy and discipline. And sometimes if you're not feeling it and you just think your life is getting overwhelming, take the day off and really unplug. Yeah. But I say it's poisonous to go in as a leader to a job with a bad attitude, because what you do as a leader is emulated, and that'll spread like infection.
Yeah. It does. Yeah. Well, this has been fabulous. We could go on for hours, I'm sure, Captain Mark Brouker, but I want everyone to go out there and get a copy of your book, Lessons from the Navy. How can they do that?
Oh yeah, just it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Roman and Littlefield is a publisher, but Amazon seems to be the place most people are getting. But it's online, and I really appreciate you checking it out. And let me know if you like it. I've got a website, Brouker Leadership Solutions. It's Brouker. But go and grab the book. It's gotten some great reviews, and I just love helping people on their journey.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Captain Brouker. I really am grateful you came out here to share your wonderful wisdom today. Thank you for coming to Savvy Broadcasting.
Thanks, Christina. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.